So over the last 5 days, I've taken delivery of two brand new 2025 Toyota 4Runners, road tripped them, took them off-road, lived with them on a daily basis, and who knows, by the time you're seeing this video, likely did another thing or two with this particular TRD Pro. And this is all coming from somebody who has never ever before driven a Toyota 4Runner in any of its previous generations. And in today's video, I want to share my dedicated likes and dislikes, everything I've thoroughly enjoyed about the TRD Off-Road Premium and the TRD Pro trim levels of the 4Runner, as well as the things that I haven't loved so much about them over the last 800 plus miles. So if you're new to the channel or haven't seen any of the content I've already posted here on the 2025 Toyota 4Runner, make sure you guys subscribe and check that out after this video. I just returned from the 2025 Mama Spring Rally, where I road tripped the TRD Off-Road Premium up to that event and brought back the TRD Pro. And overall, I have over 800 miles as of me filming this video combined between both vehicles, and I'm likely going to be inching closer to that 1,000-mile mark by the time I finished here with this TRD Pro. So I want to give a huge thanks to Toyota for making this possible, Dry Shop for facilitating it, and of course you guys for watching. But without further ado, let's not waste time and get into everything I both like and dislike here with the all-new 4Runner. So as usual, starting out my list of likes, the first one is going to be the styling and aesthetics, specifically when it comes to this TRD Pro sitting beside me. Now, of course, styling and appearance is always a subjective matter, so leave your thoughts and opinions on the new next generation 4Runner down in the comment section below, especially if you happen to own one of the previous generations. But I think Toyota did a fantastic job keeping a lot of the proportions and aesthetics about the 4Runner of the past present here in this new next generation. Now, I even learned up at the Mama Spring Rally that the rear quarter glass window with its rounded edge near the roof is borrowed from that of some of the first, second, and third generation 4Runners, which is cool to see some like heritage markers make their way into a modern product vehicle. But when you just look at this thing, it looks the part, and it certainly is very functional in its nature with the LED forward lighting, skid plates all underneath. You have the front fascia that is carved out for better wheel and tire contact over certain obstacles off-road, skid plates. You have the front bulge hood, 33-inch diameter tires with the 1-inch suspension lift, and the Fox dampers, which are adjustable on the TRD Pro, which is always cool to see. And then this one is optional with the ARB roof rack up top, and out back you have similar cosmetic and functional enhancements, including a full-size spare tire mounted underneath the vehicle in case you do have instances off-road. And then this one has a ton of additional hardware, including a built-in air compressor, which we'll be mentioning a little bit later in this video. Now, continuing on with my second like, this was kind of general aspect about the 4Runner, but that's going to be its turning radius both on and off-road, which I was able to test over my last week with two different trim levels, the TRD Off-Road Premium and this TRD Pro. Now, immediately upon getting the TRD Off-Road Premium dropped off in my driveway, I got in it, turned around my court where I normally have to pull out, and I immediately noticed how sharp the vehicle was able to turn. And it reminded me of that of a two-door Wrangler, for example, which has a very short wheelbase and a very sharp turning radius. And I don't think this vehicle is too far off of a two-door Wrangler in terms of its capabilities, especially from that of what I was able to experience off-road up in the wilderness of northern Wisconsin. Tight trails, tight trees, this vehicle navigated it without issue, and I think, you know, both on and off-road, it certainly has some key benefits. Now, my third like is actually going to be twofold, and it's all in regards to this power rear liftgate. And yes, I said power rear liftgate because it's the first time that a power liftgate has ever been offered on the 4Runner model. So as you can see, on select trims and configurations, a power liftgate will be found on this vehicle, and I think it just makes the day-to-day utility of this vehicle that much better, because like most mid-size or just any size SUV, if you're loading stuff up and you know your hands are full, it's nice to just have a little bit of additional power functionality. Now, it also gives you the lock button up here, so you can lock the vehicle and simply walk away. Anyways, also in addition to this, it retains the power up-down rear window, which can be controlled here on the exterior of the vehicle as well as on the inside. So, of course, with the vehicle off, you can simply press and hold the arrow. It will lower the window and gives you that fresh air experience, which I absolutely love on the Tundra, and is certainly going to be found on other vehicles such as the Sequoia and here on the 4Runner. So between those two things, the power liftgate is certainly very functional inside the new 4Runner. So moving on to my fourth like, that is going to be the functionality of the interior as well as its large physical buttons and knobs, which is quite refreshing to use in comparison to some other modern vehicles currently offered on the market. Now, if you're coming from a new Tundra or a Tacoma, this is going to feel very familiar in design, as you have a lot of the same switchgear borrowed from the Tacoma here on this vehicle, or even the Land Cruiser, for example. So the steering wheel has all of your stuff that's easy to use, well laid out. And then over here to the left of the steering wheel, you have your 4 pre-wired auxiliary buttons for this TRD Pro, your TRD light bar down below, and then all the usual stuff with power liftgate, 120 volt inverter, manual headlight leveling, and automatic high beam assist. All of this is very familiar to that of a lot of other products I've recently tested on the channel. Now coming over here to the infotainment system, 12.3-inch digital cluster, and then a 14-inch screen with wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and the latest UI that they've again rolled out since Tundra and recently updated. When you come down below here, that's where I like a lot of these physical buttons that are chunky to use, because if you're wearing gloves in wintertime, for example, these will be all easy to access and easy to control. But even if you're not, it's just refreshing to get behind the wheel of a vehicle, which is just mostly physical in its functionality. And then down below here in the center console area, you have the vertical wireless charger, which they said is nice. So if you have your phone in there, you can see notifications, which I can confirm works quite well. And then you have the 2-speed transfer case with all of your multi-terrain select, crawl control, drive mode selections, all in this physical dial, which is fairly compact and relatively easy to use with some of your other off-road goodies such as locking diff and sway bar disconnect just to the right of all of that. And I just think the interior as a whole is just, it's fairly spacious, well laid out, easy to use, and even have the JBL Flex audio speaker, which is removable and you can use on the go if you want to use that, located up in the dashboard. And I think the interior as the most part is relatively well appointed in this $70,000 TRD Pro, but I think was lacking in some of the other trims such as that TRD Off-Road Premium I had tested. But all in all, like the physical buttons, like the switchgear, and I think it's pretty well laid out and easy to use. Now staying on the interior, my next like actually has to do with the dual power front seats, which have the exact same power adjustments here on the driver's side as in the front passenger, which includes 4-way power lumbar and 2-seat memory on the driver's seat. Now the TRD Pro that I'm sitting in and the TRD Off-Road had the Softex interior, which is their synthetic leather, but you can, believe it or not, get a semi-aniline leather on the fully loaded Platinum. You have the Softex on certain configurations and even cloth seats on some of those lower trims. But all in all, given the amount of seat time I've had behind the wheel of 2 different versions, I have to say these seats are actually fairly comfortable and I don't have any major complaints, although I think the TRD Pro is slightly more comfortable than that of the TRD Off-Road Premium. If there's any differences in the seat, it just felt like this one was a little bit more comfortable. And given my spinal fusion, headrests typically give me issues, but I think these are actually some of the most more comfortable, not most comfortable, more comfortable seats that I've experienced. You have the power tilt telescopic steering wheel, which actually comes out reasonably far. And I think all in all, just the seating position and the seats themselves are, fairly comfortable in this new next generation. And the TRD Pro gets the upgraded door panels, which offer more premium soft touch materials on the upper armrest, the back portion, and of course the regular armrest, which makes the experience just that much better. Now my next like has to do with the JBL Flex Premium audio system, which of course I did just mention. This is a 14 speaker, over 1200 watt amplified premium audio system offered in this 4Runner. And of course the Flex aspect comes with that portable Bluetooth speaker, which pops right out of the dashboard as your center channel. And you can take this speaker on the go if you're going hiking, going camping, anything like that. You can basically take this speaker with you, have JBL on the go, and it's just always with you inside of the vehicle. But when it comes to the audio sound quality inside of both 4Runners, I have to say the TRD Pro, for whatever reason, just sounded a little bit better and what I would expect with over 1200 watts versus the TRD Off-Road Premium. But on paper, they had the exact same audio system, and I was really happy driving this vehicle back from Elkhart Lake in the Plymouth area, over 4 hours of driving and all the day-to-day driving. It just sounds really good. It has the dedicated subwoofer out back, and overall, I think with the relatively quiet cabin, the audio system goes hand in hand, and I think it's really what you would expect in a vehicle of over $70,000 as equipped. But like I said, this audio system comes on 4Runners that are in the mid $50,000 price range, and I really think it is one of the highlights. And of course, you have that portable Bluetooth speaker, which you can take on the go at any time. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos here on the channel, then you'll know I'm a huge fan of onboard power from hybrids or fully electric vehicles, and I'm happy to say the 4Runner continues on just like that of the Land Cruiser, offering 20 amp, 24 2,400 watts of available off-board power via 220 volt outlets. So you have one here in the cargo area and one in the second row of the vehicle. And this is a huge upgrade from the standard 400 watts that you get with the regular gas models. So every hybrid will come equipped with the onboard power of up to 2,400 watts. And as I tested in my Land Cruiser video, I powered a full-size circular saw cutting a piece of wood, and it didn't hesitate whatsoever. It powered on without issues, and 2,400 watts is more than that of some fully electric vehicles that offer off-boardable power. So whether you're camping, you have a power outage at your house, just need temporary power out in a parking lot, whatever the issue or condition may be, you have a ton of power on board of the hybrid version of the 4Runner. And I just think onboard power is a huge benefit, like I said, in those instances where you have a random power outage at your house for a few hours. You can plug in the key necessary attributes, you know, with 2 different plugs, 2 different extension cords. Don't even have to use splitters if you don't want, and power those, you know, essentials such as your fridge, freezers, or any other items you may wish to do so. Now my next like has to do with the available onboard air compressor on select trim levels of the 4Runner. Now this is optional on the TRD Pro, costs about 1,400 bucks, but now includes an airline kit. So you actually have the hose required to fill all 4 tires or additional accessories you may want to use with the onboard air compressor. And believe it or not, I learned a little bit more about this at the Mama Spring Rally where they, you know, mentioned this in their presentation. The fact it comes with the hose, and I actually needed it on my way back from the rally because someone put over 50 PSI in the tires and it was riding terribly. And a couple miles down the road, I found a gas station that had a tire pressure gauge for me to deflate the tires down to a reasonable pressure, but I could have done that all on the side of the road using the built-in air compressor in the kit, which this vehicle comes with. So I'll have a dedicated how-to video on this exact feature if you want to know a little bit more about it, but it has automatic inflate, deflate functionality. You can do presets up to 6 different modes. I think it's one of the coolest aspects, and it certainly is actually very easy to use, and it's fairly quiet in its operation as well. Now coming to my last and arguably biggest like with this 4Runner is going to be the hybrid powertrain. Now if you've seen some of the other content, you'll know I have hundreds of miles behind the wheel of the standard engine and this hybrid, and I have to say this is hands down the way that I would purchase one of these vehicles for a few different reasons. Number one, you get the 2,400 watts of onboard power versus 400 watts. I think that is a huge benefit in and of itself. Number two is over my road trip, I think I did experience marginally better fuel economy with the hybrid out on the interstate at, you know, 75, 77 miles an hour. Make sure you guys check out my driving review videos if you want to know a little bit more about that and my actual fuel economy that I did achieve. And number three, the biggest one that I would say is a positive attribute, that's just the way it drives. Not only in the engine stop start, because this vehicle does have a much smoother engine stop start with the hybrid system, but also can, you know, power itself at low speeds or, you know, on downhill sections with the engine entirely off, which ultimately saves a little bit of fuel, but it just has effortless acceleration. 465 pound-feet of torque at 1,700 RPMs. This thing will get up and go even with the large 33-inch diameter tires. The 8-speed automatic's pretty darn smooth, and all in all, if you just want a more effortless acceleration and experience, this is the powertrain you want to choose in the 4Runner. Although I was reasonably impressed with the standard Turbo 4 in comparison to my experience of the Tacoma, I mean, this is just hands down the way I would go, and I think there's a few different benefits choosing the hybrid over the non-hybrid. So let's go to it here for my list of likes with the all-new 2025 Toyota 4Runner. Now let's get into the things that I didn't love so much about it over about 1,000 miles over the last week. Starting out, my first dislike, that is going to be in regards to the TRD Off-Road Premium that I had earlier in the week, and that's going to be the harsh ride quality. Now this is something that I experienced in the Tacoma TRD Off-Road as well, and unfortunately the TRD Off-Road Premium 4Runner also had a very firm, harsh ride at times on everyday roads with, you know, normal imperfections. Now that one has the Bilstein dampers with a remote reservoir, non-adjustable, and I think on the interstate the suspension was fine. On very smooth roads, it was fine. It's just on the normal potholes and things that you might experience around town, that's where I thought the ride quality was overly firm or overly harsh. Off-road, it did fine. Once again, I think that firm suspension offers some benefits there. But if you're looking at a 4Runner, just note that there are several different suspensions. There's at least 4 different damper and suspension tunes, if not more than that, across the entire lineup. From the standard suspension, you have the Bilstein, you have the Emu, and then you have the, of course, the Fox here on the TRD Pro, which this one's absolutely phenomenal with the 3 adjustments you can do underneath the vehicle. But overall, the TRD Off-Road Premium was a little bit on the firm side, and I think it's, you know, definitely a drawback of that particular trim level. So coming to my second dislike, that actually has to do with the Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 lane tracing assist and just how naggy it ends up being out on the interstate. So I spent over 600 miles behind the wheel of the TRD Off-Road Premium and this TRD Pro combined over the last just couple days. And this one does not have the attention forward monitor or the facial camera on the steering column like some other Toyota products do, which I think is a positive, but ultimately this vehicle kept nagging me to keep my hands on the steering wheel when I'm out on the interstate, putting in steering input. It's just a little bit too naggy. Now, I think that's unfortunate because I like a lot of Toyota's other vehicles, and I don't know if this one's tuned a little bit differently or it's just the all-terrain tires and the amount of movement it has or the lack of steering input it can sense. Nonetheless, it just got old very quickly, and you kept having to like put deliberate inputs that were overly robust or too much input just to keep the system satisfied out at 75 miles an hour on the interstate. So do keep that in mind. Is hopefully they can tune that, dial it in a little bit better over time, but I did experience overly naggy lane tracing assist here inside of this vehicle. So my third dislike is not in regards to this TRD Pro, but is in regards to that TRD Off-Road Premium, and that was the overly hard touch door panels in a vehicle that costs nearly $60,000. So with this TRD Pro, all of this is soft touch synthetic leather with the red accent stitching, and this is the part that specifically bothered me in the TRD Off-Road Premium, and that again, that's the premium package. It's supposed to be nicer than that of the regular 4Runner. Came in at $59,000, and this was hard touch plastic, which this is a place that you rest your elbow all the time, and it really did kind of dig into your skin with the texture and just didn't feel very nice on the interior. The Pro, much better. Love this door panel. The Platinum and the Limited, likely gonna be very nice as well. But just know if you're getting some of that those lower trim levels, you might not get all of these soft touch premium materials in the spots that you wish you had it. And ultimately, I would not be surprised if they change the packaging over time in those premium models, or something along those lines, or the aftermarket might take care of it, because this is a very important soft touch material. Resting your arm on the window when it's down on a nice day is ultimately just not that comfortable on some of those lower trims. Now coming to my fourth dislike, that's in regards to the hood vibration issues I experienced here with this TRD Pro that I also experienced on the Tacoma that I had last year. So with different configurations of the 4Runner, you will have either the bulged hood or a mostly normal hood on the TRD Off-Road. And I have to say the TRD Off-Road was relatively normal. I don't recall seeing major hood vibrations, but here with this TRD Pro, it is certainly something when sitting in the driver's seat or the front passenger seat, you will see the hood vibrating depending on the road conditions, what tire pressure you have the vehicle set at, or just the wind conditions and what speed you're driving at, because of its, you know, maybe aerodynamic deficiencies, or maybe the additional weight that the hood may have. Not exactly sure what the reasoning is, but I do know that just like that of the Tacoma, the 4Runner does have hood vibrations. It catches your eye and your line of sight when you're driving down the road, and I really wish Toyota could firm up these hoods, make them a little bit more robust and a little bit stiffer so they didn't vibrate nearly as much when, you know, just driving around town, or again, spending 4 hours out on the interstate. Now coming on to my fifth dislike, that is going to be the headliner material in this vehicle that costs over $70,000 as tested. Now what's interesting is that the headliner material and the actual visor material is entirely different, and this visor material actually feels very soft to the touch, and you can tell they put in some effort as to what material this will be, given that you're actually making contact and moving around from time to time, versus this material, which they likely assumed you would not be making contact with. This feels like a very cheap cardboard, kind of semi-rough material, which this of course is a very nice cloth with a little pattern inside of it, and it just feels way more premium. So if I was Toyota, especially at the higher end of the trim lineup, you know, over that $70,000 mark, I would like the headliner to be made out of entirely this material and replace the normal, you know, standard headliner, which, you know, just doesn't feel or look the part for a vehicle in this price point. So my final and last dislike that I was able to come up with might not be a big one out there, but I did just want to mention here quickly at the end of this video is if you option the digital rear camera mirror, it will be located here next to the tailgate release, and I think the overall positioning of it and perspective is a little bit odd. So what I found with the 4Runner is if there's a sedan or a smaller subcompact SUV sitting behind you, you're basically looking right into the windshield of that particular vehicle. Now, if there's a full-size truck that's lifted or a 2500, for example, then you're basically going to be looking into the front grille or the headlight area in terms of the positioning. And I think overall, this isn't the worst thing in the world. Obviously, you can turn the digital camera mirror off, look through the glass, and be like a normal vehicle. But it would be nice to have just a little bit higher of a perspective on a vehicle like this. Up here might be a little bit too high if you're looking like down like this. So all in all, I get Toyota had some packaging restrictions for where they could place the digital rear camera mirror, but it's one of those things that you might want to at least test drive one, test it out for yourself, see how you like the positioning and the available adjustments on the inside to see if it's something you do want to spend the additional money on, because at the end of the day, it is going to be optional on most trim levels of the 4Runner, and might be something you might want to end up saving just a couple $100s on if you don't like using it. So that is going to do it here for my full list of likes and dislikes on the all-new 2025 Toyota 4Runner. Now, this is a very unique opportunity in that I was able to spend over 1,000 miles behind the wheel of 2 different trim levels here over the last week going to and from the Mama Spring Rally. So I want to give a huge thanks to Toyota and Drive Shop for making this possible, facilitating it, and giving me a little bit of bonus time behind the wheel of the all-new 4Runner. I think I have one of the most well-rounded perspectives at this point, given the amount of mileage, the amount of time, and the fact that I've been able to take 2 of them off-road as well, test fuel economy, road trip experience, everything like that. I think is just an awesome opportunity. So make sure you guys stay tuned, subscribe, check out some of the additional videos I have coming on these 2 trim levels if they're already posted and or coming over the next couple days, because all in all, I think this is a very, very good vehicle, and I was very happy with both configurations. And I think the TRD Pro is ultimately a very badass machine that has really everyday comfort if you want to drive it on road, has all the off-road credibility and capability as well. It's just it does come at a pretty hefty price tag of nearly $74,000 as equipped as seen in this video. Now, of course, it does have the onboard air compressor and that roof rack up top, which is over $3,000 alone. But still, over $70,000 for this vehicle is not a cheap or inexpensive amount of money. So certainly want to make sure it's the vehicle for you. And one of the fun facts that I learned at the Mama Spring Rally is that 80% of every 4Runner sold in the last 20 years is still out on the road. So if you have any hesitations about reliability, that certainly says something about the last couple generations of 4Runner, and hopefully Toyota engineered this particular generation to, you know, still be on the road 20 years down the line, even with its hybridization or electrification of this particular vehicle. So if you have any additional questions or comments, feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. Of course, I will do my best to answer them. If you guys enjoyed this video and or found something helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, let me know your thoughts and opinions on my likes and dislikes. If I missed anything, if you own this new next generation, let me know how your ownership experience has been. I am one of the first people to get this in the Chicago press fleet, and they are just now arriving to dealerships here in select quantities over the last about month or so. So hopefully you can be on your dealership's reservation list if you're wanting one of these, because I'm sure they'll be hard to get over the next maybe couple years as they start to make their way from Japan here into the United States. So anyways, with all that information in mind, let me know what you guys think. Once again, huge thanks to Toyota. As always, hope to see you guys in the next one.